welcome back to Mama's Menagerie. Today we're going to introduce Gizmo, the bearded dragon. Now, if you saw the intro to Mama's Menagerie, you might have seen him already, but here's his full-on intro. Okay, so I'm not going to be holding him a lot during this video, but I'll make sure to get plenty of footage of him. I'm not going to hold him because he's still relatively new, and he's skittish, and bearded dragons in the age he is run fast. So I will get him out, but if he starts showing signs that he's unhappy, I will put him back because I care about his safety and his well-being before my own. Okay, just one sec. Okay, so here's Gizmo. Okay, so Gizmo is a straight-up rescue. A very smelly rescue, but he's a rescue. See, he's not very happy with being helped. See if he wants to be helpful like this. Okay, so this is Gizmo. He is a male. I am trusting the previous owner on that. I don't really feel like trying to examine his private parts or, get too much into that because he's still very skittish. So we got him off of Nextdoor, a neighborhood app. Someone posted that they needed him to go someplace else. And I was alerted right away. Now I only go on Nextdoor to see what's going on, but mainly I look for reptiles that need immediate assistance. So I also sometimes go on Craigslist or things like that. So he caught my eye. He was very skinny. I noticed a couple of things right away, but his skin was in fold, like this. It was all folded up and hanging off his body. That is a sign of two things. One, he's a juvenile, or two, serious health condition. Serious. It could be parasites, it could be any number of things. And I messaged them right away. I'm like, how old is he? They said 2. 2 years old. He should not have wrinkles at 2 years old. I immediately started talking to my husband and my sister about bringing him home and figuring all that out because obviously he had medical conditions. The other thing about Gizmo, so they told me, and I believe this part of the story, that they went to a big pet store and the previous owner's son was looking for a pet, or no, I think they were really going for pet food. And they saw the manager taking Gizmo back to the back, and they're like, what are you doing with him? And they're like, oh, we're going to have to put him down. He's damaged goods. So when a pet store gets a shipment of bearded dragons or other reptiles, there's usually a whole clutch, litter, or multiple in there. They can have 20 to 30 shipped at one time in a box, all together. And then they'll put them in the showcase, that many in an enclosure. And the thing is that they fight for food. They're very territorial. I mean, even having 2 bearded dragons right now in the same room, they get territorial. Luckily, they're 2 different genders, so they're not as territorial because they want to mate. But they got territorial with Gizmo in the pet store enclosure. And they bit off the very tip of his tail, which isn't too big of a deal, but they also bit off most of this foot. See the difference in the feet. Oh, it's getting a little feisty. And there he goes. So we're going to finish this for a second. I'm going to keep an eye on him as he skitters away. They bit off part of his foot. And they cannot regrow their feet. They can't regrow their tails or anything like that. And if they're not sold right away, they will be marked as damaged goods. And this is what was going to happen before Gizmo. Sorry, it's still really hard. So they bought Gizmo and brought him home. Unfortunately, they decided to expand their family in the form of children and puppies, and Gizmo was left out, and he needed a new home. So I took him in. So this is what I was told about Gizmo. He was in a 30-gallon tank, roughly 2 years old. I was told that part of his tail was missing and his entire foot was missing. They only had him for 8 months. It was going to be put down. Okay, pet stores, that would imply that the pet store had him and he was like almost a year and a half. Pet stores don't keep animals that long. Baby bearded dragons fly off the shelves, or they're sent back to the seller, or sent to another store where they will sell. Bearded dragons sell. By the way, Gizmo is still on the floor, but he's doing just fine. So we brought him home, and we did some math. He was about 10 inches long, which if you Google and just try to figure things out about bearded dragon age versus size, at 10 inches, he should be 10 months old. And if you do the math, they had him for 8 months. It makes sense that they would have a 2-month, in the age that they can start selling bearded dragons is about 6 weeks. He's closer to 10 months old, not 2 years, which meant his size is perfect for his age. He's perfectly healthy. Just want to let you know that he is perfectly healthy. He doesn't even know his foot's missing, or his toes are missing. He still has that palm of the foot, so he can still run and things like that. So, other thing, it's a 20-gallon tank, not a 30-gallon. So he's definitely going to have to go up in tank size. I'm going to have to find a 40-gallon tank. But that's something you take on when you take on a rescue. So let me tell you about Gizmo now. Let's see, he was born in September, so he is now 11 months old, depending on when this comes out. We've had him since July 9th, so we've had him for about a month and a half. And he gets along really well with Leroy, at least from a distance. We haven't really introduced them face to face, but they do a little bit of the mating ritual from the distance so that they can see each other. So he eats crickets, he eats superworms, and his salads. He's a very healthy eater. He'll eat pretty much anything I put in front of him except for a dead worm, which is fine. They're hunters. He does well socializing most of the time. Like I said, he's a little skittish, so he doesn't always want to be held. But if you put him on your chest, he does pretty well. He also does well on a leash and harness. Let me go get him and see if he wants to help participate again. Okay, we're back, Gizmo. So he also has sagging skin, which is normal because he just got bigger, he ate more, he grew up. So you can see he's a pretty decent size. So, he loves to hunt, and he does not like dogs. So, if you think you want to adopt Gizmo from us, you should be a dog-free home. So, in his cage, right now, he has a couple basking spots, his food bowl, his water bowl. He actually even has a special one for his worms. A hide, some climbs, just some kind of texture differences for him. Just kind of engage him in his enclosure. So I also want to give you some other information about bearded dragons, because bearded dragons are unique. They're very different. So I mentioned earlier that he was 10 inches. Bearded dragons can grow up to 24 inches, which is 2 feet. Males grow pretty much all 24 feet. And in the previous video, the introduction to Mama's Menagerie, I talked about Leroy and how she had stunted growth at 13 and a half. If you think about it, if a 10-month-old normal is 10 inches long, She's pretty stunted for being almost 2 years. Lifespan is 10 years. So once they get full grown, they usually pretty much chill out and are that like kind of fat, lazy lizard that people picture. But juveniles are a handful. I mean, literally, look at that, they're a handful. Oh, hold on. There you go. They're omnivores, they'll eat pretty much anything that you give them. There you go, bud. So we feed, I feed them salads every other day, depending on how fast they eat them. And then they have a treat day twice a week, which is worms, superworms and mealworms, crickets when I get the chance to go out and buy them. I also either dust or spray with calcium or multivitamin to help them keep strong bones, especially because, you know, he is physically deformed and Leroy is stunted in growth. Let's see. Where are they from? They're from the Australian deserts. But this does not mean put sand in their enclosure. Our bearded dragons have a felt at the bottom to simulate sand. But the problem is the sand that they sell at pet stores is a very loose material, and it can get stuck to their food, and when they eat, they actually ingest the sand, it can become impacted. Basically, they can't pass anything. They get a big blockage of sand or dirt in their stomach, and they can't go poo, and their belly starts to bloat. So sand is not a good idea. The reason is because our sand is very finely processed, while Australian deserts are tightly packed, so it's not as loose and all that. It's not like the at Sahara, whenever you see the windstorms, you know, the dust, the sands blow. They're very tightly packed. Okay, so bearded dragons have their own language. They don't make noises often, but they will hiss when they're really upset. They'll open their mouth and go. He did that to us when we first got him. Other thing they do is, the reason they got their name, bearded dragon, is because they can actually extend their beard here. You can extend it out, and they'll turn it black to mean, I'm unhappy, I don't like you, look how big I am, look how buff I am. They'll also fill themselves up with air to inflate, to be even bigger. And then the other thing they do, which is one of the cool things, is they'll do an arm wave. Just something simple, just an arm wave. And it's actually a sign of submission. So if they're the only bearded dragon you own, and you walk in a room, and the bearded dragon turns and looks at you, and starts waving his arm at you, you're like, oh hi. Don't do it back necessarily, because they're saying, I bound you down to you, you are my leader, and things like that. So they're saying that you are in charge. But they will also do it to each other, you know, to communicate that, you know, hey, I'm a big bad guy, and you're a small little girl, and I want to be your best friend. Things like that. Another cool thing that not just bearded dragons, but most reptiles do is called brumation. Now you've heard of hibernation, which is what mammals do, like bears and other mammals that I can't think of at the moment. They hibernate, but reptiles brumate. They don't go into that full deep sleep. They just kind of slow down their processes. They'll still eat occasionally, drink a little bit. They'll open their eyes and move around, but it's very slow, very strange. I've never seen it. I don't allow my animals to brumate, which is okay because they are bred for captivity. I don't even let my tortoises brumate, and they could. The reason is because it's very, very risky coming out of brumation. The other thing is you need to lower your temperatures, and I like to keep them steady. It's so much easier to keep a year-round schedule. But juvenile, pretty much any reptile should not brumate. They are not ready yet. It's mainly an adult thing. But I've never seen them brumate. If it happens, I'll let you guys know. Okay, so males get bigger than females, like I said. So he'll definitely be bigger than Leroy. But Leroy, we know, has stunted growth. Let's see. Oh, cool fact I found out just researching for you guys. Bearded dragons actually have a mild venom. It's harmless to humans because we are so much bigger than them. But a small reptile, what's smaller than them, or a small mammal, it could actually be toxic to them. So like a mouse, or like a frog, that kind of thing. It's how they would be able to eat those kind of creatures in the wild. Is they would inject it with a mild venom, basically a paralysis, so then they could then eat that animal. They're very territorial, like I said. So a little bit of history. They were, they've been in the pet, they've been around for a long time. People have known about them for a long time. But they haven't been in the pet business in the U.S. until the 1990s. Europe, they loved them. They always loved them. But in the 1990s, it became really big in the pet trade. I believe it was 1970, actually, that Australia banned the export of bearded dragons, of wild bearded dragons, for the pet trade. So, an interesting 20-year period there. Either there was black market sales, or maybe they're all actually from the same lineage. Interesting question there. So I told you that I added calcium and multivitamins to their food. I have both a powder and a spray. Mine don't particularly like the powder. They can tell that it's something extra that's not cool. But the spray they like, especially because it adds extra hydration. So that's good. So the last thing I want to talk about is how to hold a bearded dragon. Now, the way I'm holding him right now is just kind of a loose grip. But I'm supporting his body complete, Hey, I need you for this part. No, stop that, stop that. Okay, oh, he's bearding up. Oh, he stopped. Oh, look, there's a perfect beard. And you see he's gaping his mouth. This means he's actually very upset. And he's like, look how big I am. Look how scary I am. Okay. So holding him. When they're new, be very careful. Don't need to hold them as tight as you think. But supporting the body, and then also support the feet. They're not used to being up in the air. They're not really tree climbers. They climb up on a rock to bask in the sun, to absorb all the heat. But that's about it. So you want to make sure. So I have one of his feet dangling here, but he's okay with that. So this is one way to hold him. I was holding him a little bit like this earlier. Honestly, don't hold him upside down. Don't hold him straight up in the air. And don't pick them up by their tail. They can detach their tail. They will not grow it back. It would be pretty bad. So just make sure whenever you're holding one to make sure to support its feet. Mine likes to do this where they put their paw on my fingertip. And I feel like we're holding hands. You're so sweet, Gizmo. But I never thought we'd get a second bearded dragon. But we did, and it's Gizmo. We're very happy to have him. So I have some clips of his enclosure, and I have a clip of him hunting his crickets. They're very exciting. So keep watching for those clips, and we'll see more of Gizmo on our channel. Bye, guys. Okay, so this is Gizmo's enclosure. He is right now on his basking platform, which is directly underneath his heat and UVB. He spends most of his time there, and he likes to poop right off the edge. So I think that he just like hangs his butt over the edge and poops. Next to his basking platform, we have his food bowl, which he just got fed for the day. Today he got kale, cucumber, and strawberries. He has a log that he can also bask on if necessary. In the back, he has his water bowl and a climbing thing that came with his enclosure that we're still trying to figure out the purpose of. Now, whenever Gizmo gets worms, I have a special yellow bowl that I put his worms in. And so, for example, if I put super worms in here, I have calcium powder in here, and I'll shake them into the calcium powder, and then I'll put the bowl in his enclosure, and you can tell he already knows that the yellow bowl means worms. He's already interested in it. So I'm trying to train him that the yellow bowl means worms. So here's an update on Gizmo's enclosure. I've reorganized it. I've put the hammock on better, and he has a cactus in addition, just to kind of mess around with. I made it so you can get a little bit closer to his heat. I realize it's actually a pretty weak bowl. I believe it's like a 50 or a 75. So I thought it wouldn't be as bad if he got a little bit closer, and he likes to just sit here and bask, or he'll sit along the log to bask also. So his enclosure's a little messy right now. He loves to make a mess. Just throw his salad everywhere and poop wherever he sees fit. He also threw his calcium powder out of his worm bowl. So, and just for a comparison, so this is a 20 gallon. This is Leroy's 40 gallon. She doesn't have as much stuff because she's a pain in the butt, and yeah. She's had those logs for a long time. She had them in her previous enclosure, so they are the element that we're using to keep things similar from cage to cage. You can tell that she has the felt bottom. I ran out of felt, so she still has part of her glass, which is fine. She has a fresh salad with mixed veggies, a couple things to climb on. Up here you can see her UVB light, which is not hot, it's more just for clinical purposes. She has 2 heat bulbs here, but they are ceramic heat emitters, so they do not produce light. And she has lots of things to climb on, so she can be at different levels to bask. And she has a water ball in the corner. So this is a 40-gallon breeder. And breeder just means it's wider than a normal 40-gallon because it's used for reptile breeding, clearly. But moms need the space to kind of stretch out, lay eggs, raise their young. But also because they are territorial creatures, they also want a space away from the kids. So there's a space, so like over here would be like where they lay the eggs and sit on, or make sure they stay warm. They don't necessarily sit on them like a bird would. And they could come over here to this side and be like, I don't want to spend time with them. I want some space from the kids. And the other thing is like you could have a lay box, is what they call it for like snakes, to lay their eggs in or bear their young in. But then they'd also have a clear other side they can go to live out their normal life. So that's just a difference between the 2 enclosures. We're for Gizmo's enclosure, we're mainly working off of what we got from the previous owner, just so Gizmo has a sense of regularity. So from the previous owner, we got the green bridge here, that log, and the hammock. The bowls, the little hide thing that he doesn't really use, it's more of a rock, and the cactus are all ours, but the tank and the light and those 3 things came with him. So, yeah, we just use them as a way to keep him
used to his surroundings. And just so you can get a better idea of his foot, you can see his left foot with his toe sticking out, and then his right foot is just ends, just a stump. He does have a bit of what would be his thumb, because while our thumbs are on the inside, their thumbs are on the outside. So he has a little bit of thumb left, what would be the thumb, but that's about it. The rest of it's just the palm of his hand. So he has about, it's like this. This is what he has that's still on that bottom or back right foot, but doesn't bother him. He has a slight kink in his tail, again, doesn't bother him. And then he has that bit of his tail bit off. He can still run, he can still climb. He wouldn't be able to get away from predators as well, but he is a captive bred of a captive lineage bearded dragon, so it's not something we have to worry about. So, there's his enclosure. Thanks again for watching Mama's Menagerie. Please like and subscribe. And if you want to see a certain kind of video, drop me a comment. See you guys next time.